to Speech Tea, created by
Lauren Hastings
and Lauren Prather, also known as the Laurens.
This podcast is where we discuss research and clinical practice by sparking conversation within the Black community through social media tea. So,
grab your mug
and take a sip
of Speech Tea. Hey, Lolo.
Hey, LP. Are you ready to get into some tea today?
Of course. Love me some tea. So what are you drinking on today?
Just good old ginger tea in my favorite green M&M cup. You like that?
That's cute. I like that.
What you drinking?
Well, I am drinking some orange spice green tea.
Oh, you fancy. Why are we both drinking green tea today? First of all, that was not planned.
It really wasn't. But you know what? So, we like to give the benefits of tea. So my orange spice tea has a high antioxidant content that helps protect its drinkers from many ailments and diseases. Perfect time during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I need that since I'm up in people's homes and kids' faces and teens.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just hear green tea is good to drink before you go to bed because it helps digestion, maybe a little weight loss in there too. So this just good old generic green tea.
Yeah. Do you put anything in yours or you just drink it like straight?
Right now I'm drinking it straight. Sometimes with my voice, if I'm singing a lot, talking a lot, I'll do honey and lemon, but I just kept it simple today. Just kept it simple.
Okay, SLP strategies.
That's right. That's
by
right.
Speaking it. Once it keeps your vocal cords moist.
Yep. Maybe next time I'll drink some throat coat.
Yeah. Oh, I don't really like that, but
I'm gonna have to put some extra stuff in that, but I'll say that to next time. So, what's the social media tea this week? I've been waiting for this conversation.
I'm excited because my girls Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion came out with a song called "WAP." Now, the song is not for the younger ears. It is it's not. It's not, and the acronym is not very positive either. Well, in a grown person sense it is, but not for like kids. So the funny thing is, let me tell you, so social media again takes things by storm. And it's so funny. I was having this conversation with one of my like really close friends. She's like a sister to me. And she was like, "Oh, Lauren, did you see what Domino's did?" And so WAP is spelled W-A-P. And Domino's said, "Got a taste for some WAP wings and pizza?" So they like took the song brand and like put it in their own. And it's so crazy how our, I guess, cultural, this is not even a word, but culturalistic, something like that. Culturalistic words
I see what you're saying.
Are carried into pop culture to get the attention of the crowd or a specific audience. And I think
it's a good marketing move because if you think about like Beyonce when she did Pepsi, or even take it some years back when Michael Jackson was doing, I think he did Pepsi as well. They want to go with what's hot. And right now that song is hot. It's, it's a little adult rated.
Right. So it's so funny because the millennials, I guess I feel like the maybe older millennials are like, are we going to have enough? Or is this enough? Why do we have to keep having songs like this? But these songs like this have been around for forever, like before our parents. Like
Knocking the Boots. What's that Little Kim song? Lollipop. Was it Lollipop?
That wasn't before our parents though. But then there's like blues, like old school blues. They take it that far. Or like, I think it's like blues.
Have you listened to country music? There's some country music songs. If you really listen, they be singing some things too.
Subliminals. But this one is more.
But this one was not subliminal
they weren't hiding
at all.
The video wasn't hiding anything. It was. But I was excited. I'm a hottie for Meg Thee Stallion, and I'm a Barty for Cardi B fan. So, got your Stanism here. No, I just like them. I just think it's great. I love the collaboration. They're really good together.
I love Cardi B's story, like how she came up and all that stuff. I was a love and hip hop like fan. But let's talk about this because it's a little bit deeper than just this song. So LP and I were having this conversation when this song just came out, how there are some words in our culture that's just have changed over the years. So of course in our culture, guys might call other guys, oh, that's my N, right? Everybody know what N means. And then, but now in the female, star. But now in the Black female community, like it's okay to say that's my H, that's my B. When before it was like, don't you dare call me that. Like now it's okay. Now we don't call each other that. No. I clearly call her I say that's my girl, but I don't say that's my B, that's my H, because I don't think that's cool. But that's like the thing now.
Yeah, times have changed so much, and what's accepted and they're even cursing on TV, like regular TV. So I think for the name calling part, there's boundaries. Like even me and Lolo don't do that, but even my other friends outside of that circle, like we are like, no. I think some friends I allow that to happen because it's just kind of like a part of their personality, and I don't take it offensively. But you won't hear me say it. I mean, if I do say it, I'm probably just pretending or trying to imitate something. But other than that, no.
Yeah, so that's not appropriate, but that is just a great segue into our topic of the day.
Yeah, it is great. It's perfect. So our speech tea of the day, guys, is African American English, also known as Black English or African American Vernacular English, or Ebonics.
Right.
Ebonics is kind of tricky because it's ebony phonics put together. So it only looks at the phonic side or the speech sound side of speech.
Break that down because not everybody knows.
Okay, so just the sounds, like Black sounds, like sounds of it versus like the whole picture, like language, as in like how it's used, what it looks like in a sentence, or even the social language, that pragmatic part. If you listen to part 2, no, I'm just playing. You would know the 9. No, I'm just kidding. No, you always got to reiterate it. But yeah, it's just we speak dialects, you guys, like we do. And American English is also a dialect because you have British English too. So it goes it goes a lot of ways. You'll be
Yeah, so last time we talked about like the representation in our field. So now that we're talking about dialect, if majority of our caseloads are minorities, but majority of our speech pathologists are white American, how is dialect playing in that, like in the assessment, in the treatment, in the interaction with the family? Like, does it play a role? How does it impact, treatment and all of that?
So historically, yes, it has. So at one point in time, dialect was considered a disorder based on it's different from the standard American English. So I do want to reiterate what a dialect is in case you don't know, because I think definitions are really great. Yeah. But dialects are rule-governed language systems. Let me say that again. Dialects are rule-governed language systems. And I think oftentimes, even like with like one of my mentors, when she does her presentations and stuff, they mix it up with accent. It often is like a confusion between the two words. So I read something the other day, and it really it made sense to the differences to help people really understand. So dialects, people speak their native language, and accents are the way people speak a foreign language. So like a person speaking English with a Spanish accent. So they're speaking English, but they carry on their native sounds. And it's kind of like when Spanish people say, oh, you speak Spanish, but you sound American. It's kind of like that. That's what I kind of see what accents are, like the difference.
So I have a question.
But dialects are the way we speak. Yes, ma'am.
Because I know I'm not the only one out there when people say, I love your Southern accent. So is that wrong when people say that, or are they really commenting on my dialect?
No, they're commenting on the way you sound. Like, so they're not. So accents are a part of dialects, yes. But when you're looking at accents, you're looking at how people are saying the words. So for instance, okay.
Intonation.
Yeah. So like I went to Memphis, right? I went to Memphis, the University of Memphis for my undergrad. And I'm from Clarksville, Tennessee, maybe a more like rural area. And Memphis is city life. But Memphis has their own accent and they have their own African American English dialect. Well, when I came home to like I guess during like a break or something, I was saying things like business. Like you can hear the Memphis accent. And my parents are like, what's going on here? Like, we got to reprogram you back. But I was around Memphians so much. Yeah, like that I adapted some of the way they say specific sounds, or like even my friends from the South. Like it's like a drawl that goes with it, I guess, to be more specific. But you can tell somebody that's more Midwestern, especially living here in Ohio, they notice I'm Southern all the time. Like they're like, oh, you're not from here. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not. And you're not from the South. Because they have a more standardized tone. It's like that ideal, I don't know how to describe it.
It's mainstream.
Yeah, it's real mainstream. And it's like a recording type voice. It's I don't know. It's
I
like
mean,
it
I went
doesn't
to
have
school in
any
Michigan.
or something.
Right. So I went to school in Michigan, and I did my undergrad in Michigan at Andrews University. And when I took phonetics, which, by the way, everybody, that's the class where we have to learn all those crazy looking symbols that you see in the dictionary next to the word. And so in our class, the teacher would say the word and we had to transcribe it. Well, little old Southern me, taking a phonetics class from someone from Michigan, and I had a classmate from Bermuda, so she had a British influence. We were sitting there like, that's not what we got. Like I either was missing sounds, and she sounded just like the recording, because sometimes she played the recording and sometimes she would say the words herself. And it's more mainstream in the, like you said, Midwest, North.
It just sounds different. I mean, even if you go, like, Tennessee's just one southern part. If you go to Atlanta, they're like, well, obviously lowness, but I'm saying living there, I was like, whoa. And they had the nerve to call me country, and I was like, y'all live in a big rich town, so don't try to play.
Shot it.
Don't try to play.
Shot it.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's their own, and you have your own dialect. You have your own words and things that go with your culture. But I feel like, I think a lot of the phrases and the words that we use, like, really describes the cultural experience of African American or a Black person. Like let me put that in the front. So the African American Black cultural experience. I mean, we have things that we say that are not typically in other cultures.
Right. But I think it's a part of who we are. Like, any of my friends, especially the ones that are not from Atlanta, they would, when they hear my voice, they automatically know it's me just because of how I say certain words. If you hear me say child this or girl that, they were like, she's definitely from the South. And that's just who I am. So like in our field, there's a big thing about AAE, like we said, AAE, African American English, right? In our dialect. So right. So, and I admit I do it sometimes in therapy as well, but I do correct my kids to an extent. So like I had a kid once, he said her for everything. It's like he didn't even know the word she. was created. Her this, her doing this, her doing that. And I'm like,
and it's learned, you know? I know you want to say she. It's a learned trait into their environment.
Yeah.
I think so. I guess going back to your original question, like how it affects assessment. So one of the biggest areas that it really that I've seen it affect is in language assessment, and especially articulation and phonology. Because a lot of people, if you don't have that knowledge base of what the actual characteristics are of African American English, you are going to mark them as the error because you're comparing them to a standard. And I really think so it kind of brings me historically back, because you got to know where you've been to move forward. So I'm gonna take it back to the Ebonics debate that happened in the 1990s, like 1996 era, and it's one of the most popular ones. But I really feel like the overall premise of what they were trying to get at, was really good, for good intentions. Let me say that, because I call it the intent versus impact case. And so pretty much the Oakland School Board decided to make African American English this a language, because they felt like, and at the time they called it Ebonics, and so they felt like that when we make this a language, we're giving it more prestige, because languages are considered to be more prestige. And so what they wanted to do was make sure that pretty much they were that the Black students that may appear disadvantaged because the inequalities of education were getting the same opportunity, and acknowledging that they spoke a dialect, so they're trying to advance it. So what the backfire of all of it is that the public rejected it. And so then all these civil rights leaders came into play, and everything is based on politics. And so that's why I say it's tricky, because we're comparing it to something, and it shouldn't be compared to anything, because it's its own. And the only reason why we compare it is because the superior or the majority has set the standard of what it is. And we could take it back even further to slavery, and how African Americans didn't have the same opportunity to even learn the language. Remember, like Africans, they speak like 7 African languages, so it wouldn't have been hard for them to learn English. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I would even just take it that far. But in terms of assessment, to get back to Lauren's question, is that yes, because when you compare it to that standard, you're getting marked, and so then you're getting intervention goals that are trying to, I guess, fix or modify their speech sounds, because it's perceived as a deficit, and it's not. It's a dialect. And so before, a lot of our assessments and things were not culturally sensitive, but I believe they're starting to become more now.
To a degree, and
one thing. They're just starting to acknowledge some things.
And I want to share with our audience real quick that, Lauren LP is the researcher out the two of us, and I'm like the clinician of the duo here. And so that's why I'm like, okay. But one thing I started doing, and I know we might get questions on our Instagram or our YouTube or our Facebook about this. I've gotten questions about it in person from white colleagues to say, well, what do I do? So I'll give you a good, easy example. One for articulation and one for language. So for articulation, one thing we do, I still do it myself, is say F for the TH blend. So I gotta go to the bathroom, where your teeth at, I slip up sometimes. I mean, I'm from Atlanta, it's around me. It's what I hear. So when I'm testing a African American kid and I hear them say that, what I do now is I circle it. And in our articulation test, we have to count the errors. I don't count that error when I do my raw score. Now, it's easy for me to not look in the back, because Lauren asked me, she was like, well, how do you know what to do on assessment?
Right, because I was I didn't even read back there. No, I didn't even read back there when it's time to score. Like,
a lot of people don't even know it's back there. So in the back,
I mean, don't know it's practicing for a long time.
Well, yeah. So in the back of the manual, there's a chart for African American English, Spanish, and then some of our assessments, I want to say Asian. I think it's Asian. Anyway, so they give a chart on their patterns. And so when you sit down to score it, you're technically, even though a lot of us don't, you're technically supposed to go to the back to compare what those patterns are. Same thing for our language assessments. 9 times out of 10 is going to have a chart for AAE and Spanish for sure. You're always going to have those two in the back. And so for like our preschool language tests, there's a question where they have to give you a sentence. Well, it has a little star that says something about cultural considerations, looking, appendix, whatever. How many of us really do that?
I don't think I had to. I haven't done it. No, not a lot. I would say probably 0. Is that even being taught in the, well, that's another conversation.
That's another conversation.
let me not take it there. I know some people do and some people probably do.
But to be honest, and this is no shade because we went to the same graduate program, I do not remember anybody pointing that out.
No, I don't either. I think I learned it from you. Because I think I naturally had that question, like, so. But I really believe I learned that from you.
Well, let me tell you something that started happening to me recently. On the self is a school age assessment that we use a lot in our field. And there is a grammar.
I was telling him it was for language, like.
Yes, for language assessment. Thank you. Sorry. It's called Clinical Evaluation of Language Fundamentals. And there's a subtest called word structure. It's like a grammar subtest. And for years, all of the Black kids I've tested, their scale score was low. Now, scale score for us averages from 7 to 12. And they will always get like a
score low.
That's a good question. So in a sense, well, we want everyone to learn. So in our evaluations, we have different scores. So a scale score is kind of like the standard score. A lot of
what is a standard score?
What is a standard score? So when we test it,
bottom up approach. We got to take them from the bottom. We're talking to the choir, but we got people that are not in the choir, so we got the congregation.
Here we go. Let me break out the book. Let me break out the book. So when we test your child, each subtest will have a raw score. So sometimes that's the number of how many things they got right or how many things they got wrong. We look in our grade manual to convert it to a standard score. Now, I can't remember what class it was in, but some people have heard of the bell curve. Right? Lauren, you want to break down the bell curve?
No, there's so basically these assessments are based on like a statistical viewpoint, and they have like a mean, median, range. Like this is the all statistic part of all this great stuff.
So you take 100 people and distribute it, and it makes a bell curve. So they're saying that from 85 to 115 is average.
And so, and that is compared to same age peers. So it's based on this demographic of ethnicity, I guess, or race, and then age. Like, because you're comparing it to a specific age group. So everybody's raw score is gonna like fall differently based on your age range.
Their age. Oh, yeah. So a scale score is like a smaller version of standard scores. if y'all still have questions, just hit us in the comments. We'll explain to you later. So scale score. Back to that. So listen, you can tell we really want y'all to learn. We don't want to keep throwing out words and you're just like, what?
Right.
So scale score average is from 7 to 12. Well, on these grammar subtests, all my Black kids were getting like a 2 and a 3. And I'm like, something's not right. So then, light bulb, I said, let me go to the back of the manual and compare some of the patterns they said African Americans do. And so what I did was, if they made that, I didn't count it wrong. Right? So then all of a sudden, my kids started getting more like a 6 or a 7. They were right at average, but at least it wasn't a 2 or a 3, what it used to be. So I say all that to say that it is important to look in the back of the manual when you're testing a child that's not white. There's no nice way to say it.
And here's one disclaimer, because I'm gonna just be honest. This is like me being on a soapbox a little bit, but a lot of Black families, let me not make an assumption or generalization, but I don't even know if they know they speak a dialect. And then for two, the people who, I guess I would say more middle class families who have this more educational background because they have been they've been perpetuated into the cycle of standard is the best, standard English or mainstream English, believe that their children do not speak African American English. So I am going to make this disclaimer and say all African Americans do not speak African American English, but I do believe the non-speakers do understand it still. But it's just non-speakers of AAE understand AAE. Does that make sense?
Yes, because even though I have a Southern accent, and even though I do carry some forms of AAE, and I say some forms because I've heard, I don't want to say people from the hood, but I've heard people
they have heavier dialect density.
They have heavier dialects. I can understand them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes my nouns and verbs don't agree. I listen to the other podcast. I say, ooh, okay.
I mean, that's okay. That's because we're in a comfortable situation. So and what Lauren is describing is what kind of like how she understands them, but how she also like listened and corrected herself because she was trying to code switch on the podcast, and I don't know why. And so code switching is when we're going from one dialect or one language to another. So it's like when you present, you're like, hi, my name is Lauren Prater, and today I'm going to, but when you're with your friends, you're like, girl, please. Like, last time I was kicking it with Sheila last week. Like, you just kind of change your whole, like, who you are about it. So that's what code switching is too. And
but like you said, there's some Black families who are not aware that they speak in AAE, so therefore they don't teach code switching. Like, I was taught code switching from my family. Were you taught code switching?
Yes.
We didn't know what it was.
I call my dad like the grammar police, and my boyfriend is the grammar police, and I'm like, I'm speaking dialect, so you can leave me alone. Like, I'm gonna be honest, it took my parents a while to really understand like what I was studying, and like how I was like, it's okay to sound like that. Like, it's really fine. Like, you speak a dialect. And I want to put this plug in, another good documentary for you guys to watch. I think it's good to read and research and review other things, but one good documentary is called Talking Black in America. And you can find it you can Google Talking Black in America, and it really talks about how the dialect from all, like even to the Caribbean dialects, and what it looks like. But one person on that actual interview, she was really good. She said, when you overcorrect, like when teachers overcorrect students especially, you're not only saying to me that I don't speak right, but you're saying my mom doesn't, my brother doesn't, and everybody else in my community or environment doesn't speak right. And that's another misconception, that AAE is it's a stereotype to say AAE is improper English, is broken English, it's for people who are poor or uneducated.
Right.
You know, it's affected so much stuff. I mean, if anybody knows anything about the Trayvon Martin case, a part of George Zimmerman's acquittal was due to Rachel Gentile, the main witness. When she was giving her testimony, she was speaking in African American English, and so the jurors were like, "Oh, she doesn't sound, she's hard to understand, or she doesn't."
They judge her retail.
Yeah, they judge her
retail.
Right.
Yeah.
And so another buzzword, ding ding ding, is linguistic prejudice, and that's what we do. Like, we discriminate really against the way people speak if they don't speak that non-standard or that dialect. And so what you do is you continue to perpetuate this stereotype of judging somebody by the way they talk or the way they sound. So we have to watch that. Like, I mean, I think we do, even as a Black community. We do it too. We judge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think for me, this might sound crazy, but when I get a parent like that, I'm like, yes, because I can take my little professional hat off and say, listen. Actually, I just had a conversation the other day. This mom was concerned about her daughter because she said her daughter can't sit still. And I was like, listen, let me tell you, if you don't get this under control, they will try to medicate your child, or at least really pressure you to medicate your child. Now, if I was around some other colleagues, I probably would have said, oh, you're having that concern? Okay. So what are you doing that you think is impacting her attention? Versus, listen, how much screen time is she how much screen time is she absorbing? Is she having a lot of sugar? Does she eat a lot of hot Cheetos? Like, that's how I talk to my parents, because that's what they understand.
Right.
Because I feel, in my experience, especially in the school system, I see them shrink when other professionals like use their jargon, which is their own language, and it just goes over their heads. So I'm like, did you understand what they just said? You want me to explain that to you?
Right. You do. And I feel like as speech pathologists and even professionals, period, I mean, for educators, you have to meet people where they are. We can't automatically assume or think something that because we're, again, comparing it to a standard that was not created by us in all aspects. We're not the population or the group to have advantages. That wasn't what our country was built on. Let's be frank here. And so I feel like we should meet people where they are regardless. And that's what's going to help if you're an educator, that's what's going to help your students get to the next level. If you're a mentor, that's what's going to help. You want somebody relatable. You want somebody that you can build that good rapport with. And I feel like the parents will ask those questions. They may not feel as intimidated to, ask those questions like, what? Because I even do it sometimes. I'm like, okay, I do it. I'm in a whole PhD program. And let me tell you, they were throwing out terms and I was looking like, I don't know what that means. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. So, you're going to have to break it down.
Right.
And I tell them, I said, bottom up. I'm not here with you. I'm not at the top. We need to come all the way down to ABCs and 1, 2, 3. Like, if you want me to get to where you are, if I can't break it down to anybody that way, then don't. It's not beneficial. I can memorize stuff all day and just throw out stuff, but that doesn't mean I can explain it to help somebody else understand. So that's why it's important to really do that.
Yeah. Dialect is not a disorder.
It's not. Dialect is not a disorder. I want to plug in Coffee and Community for the church. She has a bomb website for SLPs. She's like beast, and it's a Black-owned business, FYI. And she's doing her thing. I'm proud of her.
Yes. So, speech tea of the day.
Dialect is not a disorder, and always consider the culture. And I just want to add another plug. AE is not the only dialect. We have Southern English dialect.
That's true. Appalachian.
You have Appalachian English, and hear that more mountainous areas. There's also a documentary on that too, and then of course standard American English. But yeah, there's other dialects. Yeah.
We can have a whole nother podcast about
We
that.
could. You know what? There's a lot of good linguistic podcasts that talk about this too, and they break it down in a different way. They have the more linguistic approach. I mean, it's been researched for years, y'all. Like, people have been talking about this for a long time. And there's even a debate about between I feel like some Black researchers, if AAE is a dialect or is it a language. Oop.
Yeah.
Hello. Whoop. But let's reiterate this. Speech therapy. Because I just want to make sure y'all get it. So,
can y'all tell this is Lauren's thing?
This is like my thing. I just want to keep reading and just applying all this together. So number 1, dialects are rule-governed linguistic systems. Number 2, dialects are not disorders. And always consider the culture in the words of Dr. Dolores Battle. Always consider the culture.
Always consider the culture.
Find that sound effect like that. I love that thing.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed Speech Tea today. So,
Yes.
bye, Lo.
Bye, Lonnie. Bye. Great combo.